Welcome to Whispers and Confessions. There might be a twist waiting, so please make sure to watch until the end. Don't forget to subscribe and like. Let's begin right away.
My name is Liam, and I'm 33 years old. I'm an ordinary office worker living in a small apartment. My next-door neighbor, Evelyn, was incredibly popular in our neighborhood. Her constant smile and aura of innocence endeared her to everyone. People were drawn to her gentle, beautiful demeanor. The neighborhood children would eagerly approach Evelyn, pleading, "Big sis, let's play together." Even their mothers adored her. She seemed to be in constant conversation with someone, truly embodying the essence of a sociable person. Despite not living in a particularly rural area, I found it remarkable to see someone who got along so well with everyone in this day and age. I, too, found solace in Evelyn's smile and our casual greetings. Encountering her would invariably lift my spirits, leading me to think Evelyn is truly remarkable. Little did I know that this pure and wonderful woman harbored a secret. Allow me to recount how our relationship transformed as I uncovered her hidden side. It was a Friday night when everything changed. I had just returned home after a long day of overtime work, well past 11 o'clock. After a solitary dinner and a shower, I found myself unable to sleep. I lay in the darkened room, eyes closed, waiting for slumber to claim me. The clock had likely ticked past 2 a.m. Suddenly, I heard a sound from next door. It was faint, barely audible through the wall, but it sounded like someone talking. Concern for Evelyn's well-being crept into my mind. Is something wrong? I wondered. As I continued to hear her voice intermittently, my worry grew. However, given the late hour, I hesitated to ring her doorbell, fearing it might be an inconvenience or a misunderstanding. I found myself at a loss, unsure of how to proceed. Eventually, I decided to step out onto the balcony to better discern the sounds coming from her apartment. If she was in distress or trouble, I felt compelled to help. As I quietly made my way outside, her voice became clearer. It didn't sound like she was in pain. Rather, it seemed as though she was trying to suppress something. Intrigued, I inched closer to her room. Although I couldn't make out her words, the sounds resembled moaning. I rationalized, well, she's only human. It's natural to have such moments. However, it had been so long since I'd heard these kinds of sounds from a woman that my body began to react involuntarily. Despite feeling it was inappropriate, I found myself unable to stop listening. After a while, I heard her window opening. Is she coming out onto the balcony? I panicked, not wanting to be caught eavesdropping. I remained still, trying to avoid making any noise. I could hear the soft padding of slippers as she stepped outside. Ah, if only I could experience something like this in real life. I heard her sigh. But reality is never that exciting. It sounded as if she might be on the phone, as I could hear what seemed to be responses. I know. I want to experience things like waking up feeling good. You know, the kind of scenario you only see in manga. We're quite the perverts, aren't we? Discussing such things at this hour. Her tone was tinged with amusement. Listening to this, I realized she was fantasizing about something. A manga-like situation? What could she be referring to? I was perplexed. Yet, I found myself aroused, quietly chuckling at the thought that I, too, must be quite the pervert. Feeling guilty about my continued eavesdropping and needing to calm myself, I attempted to quietly return to my room. However, in my clumsiness, I stumbled, my foot catching on the threshold. Ah! I involuntarily cried out, quickly covering my mouth with both hands. Evelyn's voice cut through the silence. Huh? Is someone there? I agonized over whether to respond, briefly hoping that if I remained quiet, she might dismiss it as her imagination. But then she continued, "You're there, aren't you? Did you hear everything?" It was clear she had detected my presence. Embarrassed, I apologized profusely. "I'm terribly sorry." Evelyn, surprisingly nonchalant, inquired, "How much did you overhear? Did you catch me in a private moment?" Her casual tone caught me off guard. "Well, yes," I admitted, unable to fabricate a lie. A slight smile played on her lips as she responded, "Come to my place tomorrow morning." Left with no alternative, I acquiesced, "All right." The thought crossed my mind. Is she swearing me to secrecy? It made sense, given her pristine reputation. Such a conversation becoming public knowledge would undoubtedly cause her distress. Guilt gnawed at me. That night, sleep eluded me, my mind a tumultuous mix of excitement and remorse. The following morning, I found myself at her doorstep. She welcomed me in without hesitation, ushering me into her room. As I entered, trepidation gripped me. Evelyn casually offered coffee and dove straight into conversation. To my bewilderment, she declared, "I'm going to give you a key." Confusion washed over me. Pardon? A key? Why? You heard me last night, correct? You've discovered my true nature, she stated matter-of-factly. Yes. I managed to reply. She continued, "You see, I crave unique experiences. Conventional relationships bore me. They lack excitement. I feel nothing. Since you've uncovered my secret, I'd like to enlist your help." Her frankness left me flustered, yet she pressed on, unperturbed. "Here's what I want to experience. A man enters while I'm asleep and begins to touch me. As I gradually awaken to these sensations, we become one. Doesn't that sound thrilling?" Her eyes sparkled with excitement as she spoke. I found myself doubting whether this was the same Evelyn I thought I knew, the gentle, kind, and seemingly pure woman. My surprise was evident. While I had glimpsed her unconventional side during the phone call, I hadn't anticipated this level of intensity. "That's why I'm entrusting you with this key. You're welcome to come at any time. But please, don't forewarn me of your visits. I want to experience the tension of not knowing when you'll arrive, the element of surprise. So, feel free to enter discreetly whenever you choose." Her joyful expression remained unwavering. Faced with her radiant smile, I found myself unconsciously remarking, "I had no idea you harbored such interests." "Indeed, it's my little secret," she confided. "Though, I must admit, the idea of multiple people discovering this and showing up at my door in the dead of night does hold a certain appeal. But that would likely strain neighborly relations, so perhaps it's best kept under wraps." She spoke with an air of amusement. "I absolutely adore fantasies. There's nothing more exhilarating than indulging in unconventional scenarios. So, what do you say?" Her gaze met mine, unwavering. "Am I suitable for this?" I asked, genuinely taken aback by the boldness of her proposition. Yet, as I entertained the idea, I felt my body responding, prompting my inquiry. "Had you not shown up today, I was prepared to let the matter drop," she explained. "Yesterday's incident caught me off guard. It wasn't part of my plan. But I reasoned that if you came when summoned, you might be open to fulfilling my request. So I decided to be forthright about my desires if you appeared. If you hadn't come, I assumed you'd have been repulsed. In that case, I wouldn't have pursued it further. At worst, I might have faced some complications, but even that held a certain allure. However, since you're here now, I've ensnared you. I won't be letting you go," she declared, a hint of mischief in her expression. Her demeanor had transformed completely. Gone was any trace of her usual purity, replaced by a bold, almost provocative air. The stark contrast was jarring. Her declaration of, "I won't be letting you go," left me feeling ensnared, as if escape was no longer an option. Refusal seemed impossible, and I found myself accepting the key. In that moment, I marveled at the rarity of someone so consumed by fantasy, let alone one willing to voice such desires to a man. Had I inquired, "Weren't you at all uncomfortable?" she might have shown a hint of discomfort. Yet, rather than feeling repulsed, I found myself increasingly drawn to the prospect of participating in her fantasies. After informing Evelyn of my intention to visit her late at night soon, I returned home, my mind reeling from the unbelievable situation that had just unfolded. The key she had given me felt heavy in my hand, a tangible symbol of the trust she had placed in me. Despite her evident excitement, I found myself needing time to process this unexpected turn of events. This type of seduction was entirely new to me, and I needed to gather my thoughts and muster my courage. I decided to give myself a week, planning to visit her on the next holiday. Though I wasn't sure how much I could acclimate to this unusual arrangement in such a short time, I felt I needed at least that long to prepare myself mentally. The days seemed to fly by, and before I knew it, a week had passed. On the appointed day, I woke up feeling a mix of anticipation and nervousness. As the hours ticked by, my mind raced with questions. Would she really be asleep when I arrived? Or would she be awake, waiting for me? What if she changed her mind and rejected me at the last moment? These anxieties swirled in my head, growing more intense as midnight approached. Finally, deciding it was time, I slowly left my apartment, clutching her house key tightly in my right hand, my heart pounding with each step. With trembling hands, I inserted the key into her lock, turning it as quietly as possible to avoid waking her. The act felt almost illicit, adding to my nervousness. As the door swung open, I stepped into the darkness of her apartment. The room was silent, and I carefully made my way towards her bed, grateful that I had a vague recollection of its location from my previous visit. As I approached, I could hear the soft sound of her breathing, indicating she was asleep. Gently, I stroked her head, still hesitant and questioning if this was truly okay. Evelyn's sleeping face was breathtakingly beautiful, exuding an air of innocence that made my heart skip a beat. Slowly and carefully, I slipped under the covers beside her. When I cautiously placed my hand on her chest, her breathing became more pronounced, and I felt a surge of sensuality. Though her eyes remained closed, her body seemed to respond to my touch, making me wonder if she was actually awake. I continued to caress her, lightly kissing her lips. To my surprise, she reciprocated, clearly responding to my advances. Despite my suspicions that she was awake, I chose not to mention it, allowing the fantasy to continue. As we became one, I was enveloped by the warmth of her soft skin and the gentle rhythm of her breath. The small sounds she made, eyes still closed, were endearing beyond words, causing my heart to flutter. Gradually, her eyelids began to flutter, and when our gazes finally met, I found myself lost in the depths of her clear eyes. The connection we shared in that moment was profound, transcending the need for words. We communicated everything through our eyes and bodies, sharing an intimacy and warmth that was truly special. Hours later, as we lay in contented silence, Evelyn turned to me with a satisfied smile. "I've been waiting all this time. I can't believe you made me wait so long," she teased. Apologetically, I responded, "That wasn't my intention. I'm sorry." She quickly reassured me, "No, it's perfectly fine. I enjoyed the anticipation every day. I couldn't sleep at all this past week." Surprised, I asked, "Is that so?" She nodded, "Yes, and tonight. I was actually awake from the moment you entered." I admitted, "I had a feeling you might be awake, but I wasn't sure." She giggled, "When I'm excited, sleep is impossible. My heart races too much." Her bright demeanor and candid words were incredibly endearing. Satisfied and content, she soon drifted off to sleep. As I lay beside her, I was struck by how fulfilled I felt. Whether it was the novelty of the situation or simply being with someone as beautiful as Evelyn, I found myself addicted to the experience. Before I knew it, I had fallen asleep as well. The next morning, I awoke to the sensation of Evelyn's lips on mine. "Hee hee, this is payback for yesterday," she said playfully, instantly melting my heart. Feeling inexplicably happy, I reciprocated her affections. After another passionate encounter, she turned to me with a mischievous glint in her eye and asked, "What kind of scenario should we try next time?" And so began our unique arrangement. Evelyn would meticulously plan out each encounter, deciding on the situations and settings we would explore. It became a thrilling pattern, with me eagerly anticipating and fulfilling her fantasies. I found myself captivated by her boundless creativity and imagination. She was at her most radiant when lost in her fantasies, and I grew to love that expression on her face. As time passed, I found myself increasingly drawn into her world, building a connection that went beyond the physical, rooted in the shared excitement of bringing her dreams to life. Our encounters became increasingly adventurous. I would visit her house in the middle of the night, surprise her during her showers, and we even shared intimate moments inside her closet. Once, we daringly made love on her balcony. We reveled in the excitement of various situations and locations. Each meeting filled me with pure joy, simply from being in her presence. About 6 months after discovering Evelyn's hidden side, I realized I had fallen deeply in love with her. This realization caught me off guard. Our relationship had been built on fantasy scenarios, with minimal personal conversation. We had never been on a conventional date, and I didn't even have her contact information. All I possessed was her house key and the knowledge that she was a woman with an incredibly rich imagination and unique tastes. Despite the unconventional nature of our connection, I found myself irresistibly drawn to her. The time we spent together was both enjoyable and comforting. Eventually, I decided to confess my feelings. After indulging in one of her meticulously planned scenarios, I gathered my courage and said, "Evelyn, I've fallen for you." My words seemed to surprise her, and she grew pensive. "Can't we maintain our current arrangement?" she asked, her voice tinged with uncertainty. "I do like you as a man, Liam, but dating is different. It scares me. You've been participating in my fantasies, and I can tell you've been enjoying them too. Until now, I thought this was purely physical. No one has ever expressed genuine feelings for me after seeing this side of me. A woman with such a vivid and unconventional imagination. I wouldn't like myself if I were a man. Even if you say you like me now, feelings change over time. Someday, you'll probably say, I prefer someone normal after all. That's why I don't think dating is a good idea right now." Her expression grew somber as she spoke. Concerned, I asked, "Have you heard such words before? That normal is better?" She nodded, her eyes distant. "Yes, I've always loved imagining things. It started when I was in elementary school. At first, my fantasies weren't strange. I began imagining things to escape from bullying. In my mind, I was bright, lively, and popular. It was a perfect world where everyone loved me. That's how I carved out a place for myself in the realm of imagination, turning away from harsh reality. By high school, my fantasies had evolved. I imagined being genuinely loved and appreciated by men. My imaginary world became my sanctuary, making real-life challenges more bearable. When I turned 21, I got my first boyfriend. Things were good initially, but when I shared my fantasies with him, he reacted poorly. He would say things like, "That's disgusting," or "Are you pretending to be innocent?" It seems calculated. He told me to stop. After that, I tried to hide my fantasies from him. But eventually he said, "Such a strange woman is too much. It's disgusting. I prefer someone normal." After that experience, I became convinced that reality would never work out well for me. I decided to emulate the girl from my childhood fantasies, pure, bright, and kind, just to get by. Thanks to that facade, I now get along well with my neighbors, and no one dislikes me. The only person I can be truly honest with is a female friend I met online who shares my penchant for fantasizing. When you first caught me, I was on the phone with her. Now, I can be honest with you too, Liam, she continued, her voice softening. But I'm terrified that someday you'll say, I prefer someone normal and leave me. If we never start dating, we can never break up. That's why I'm hesitant to pursue a relationship, she concluded, her vulnerability evident. As Evelyn shared her past, I began to understand a crucial part of her. She had created an imaginary world to protect herself from a harsh reality. While she now enjoyed her fantasies, it was clear that she still feared the real world and the potential for further hurt. I could empathize with her feelings. I had grown to appreciate her unconventional aspects, and I genuinely enjoyed experiencing her imaginative world together. In that moment, I realized that our connection went beyond mere physical attraction. It was a meeting of minds and souls in a unique and beautiful way. I found immense joy in experiencing Evelyn's imaginative world together, but I worried about convincing her of my sincerity. How could I make her believe that I genuinely appreciated her unique qualities? Could I assure her that I wouldn't eventually prefer someone normal? These questions weighed heavily on my mind. After careful consideration, I concluded that the best approach was to consistently demonstrate my affection for her. Words alone might not suffice to gain her trust immediately. However, by genuinely cherishing her and remaining steadfast in my feelings, I believed she would naturally come to trust me over time. With this in mind, I expressed myself to her. I understand your reservations about dating, and I respect that. However, my feelings for you remain unchanged, Evelyn. If you'll allow it, I'd like to continue caring for you. As we spend more time together, I hope you'll come to trust me completely. When that time comes, perhaps our relationship can evolve further. My words seemed to surprise Evelyn, but a smile soon graced her features, hinting at her happiness. While my confession hadn't led to an immediate relationship, it hadn't ended things between us either. Following this conversation, our dynamic gradually shifted. We continued to indulge in her fantasies, but our interactions expanded beyond that. We began going on dates, often incorporating elements of her imaginative scenarios, which proved to be incredibly enjoyable. We exchanged contact information, and our bond deepened incrementally. Before I realized it, a year had passed since my initial confession. My feelings for Evelyn hadn't wavered. If anything, they had intensified. I longed to be closer to her. While I couldn't be certain of her feelings towards me, I sensed a growing affection on her part. This realization prompted me to consider confessing once more. Reflecting on her previous hesitation about dating, I contemplated a bolder move, a proposal. Unlike a simple confession, a proposal would convey my seriousness and commitment. Moreover, the prospect of introducing her to my family might provide her with additional reassurance. With this in mind, I began preparing for the proposal in earnest. After purchasing a ring, the day finally arrived. With nervous anticipation, I asked, "Evelyn, will you marry me?" I continued, addressing her earlier concerns. "You once worried that I might eventually prefer someone normal, but my feelings for you remain unchanged, Evelyn. In fact, the more I've gotten to know you, the deeper my affection has grown. I can't imagine my life with anyone else. So, I ask you to take this step with me." I bowed my head, my heart pounding as I awaited her response. Despite my fears of rejection, I was overjoyed to hear her say yes. Evelyn's eyes shimmered with emotion as she spoke. "Time has passed since your first confession, Liam, and you haven't changed at all. Despite my quirks, you've continued to love me and participate in my fantasies. Initially, I thought it might end someday, but now I truly believe I can trust you. The fact that you're proposing, not just confessing, has taken me by surprise. This reality is even happier than I could have imagined. Even with all my peculiarities, please take care of me from now on." That night, our connection felt even more intense and fulfilling than ever before. With my proposal accepted, we began preparing for our wedding. Despite our nervousness, we successfully navigated the process of introducing our families to each other. In a decision that suited our unique relationship, we chose to maintain separate residences to continue our enjoyable activities. While we would typically stay together in one of our homes, we agreed to sleep separately when enacting her fantasies, meeting later as per our established routine. This arrangement might seem unconventional to others, but for us, it represented the ideal married life. And so, we joyfully registered our marriage, officially becoming a family. The transition from lovers to spouses was seamless, our unique bond only growing stronger. Even after exchanging vows, Evelyn's vivid imagination continued to be the cornerstone of our relationship, infusing each day with excitement and novelty. Our life together was a tapestry of laughter, love, and mutual respect. We explored the depths of Evelyn's fantasies, each scenario bringing us closer and deepening our understanding of one another. From whimsical role-playing to elaborate, romantic setups, we embraced every opportunity to bring her dreams to life. These shared experiences became our secret language, a private world that belonged to us alone. As time flew by, we found ourselves celebrating our 5th wedding anniversary, marveling at how swiftly the years had passed. Yet, the essence of our relationship remained unchanged. The spark that ignited our connection burned as brightly as ever, our compatibility and affection for each other unwavering. We continued to get along remarkably well, our conversations flowing effortlessly from mundane daily matters to the most fantastical ideas. Our commitment to realizing Evelyn's fantasies remained steadfast, evolving with us as we grew both individually and as a couple. These shared moments of imagination and intimacy served as a constant reminder of the unique bond we shared, reinforcing our connection in ways that went beyond conventional expressions of love. In this journey together, we discovered a profound sense of happiness, one that was uniquely ours. It wasn't just about living. It was about experiencing each moment with an intensity that made every day feel special. We found ourselves constantly grateful for the life we had built together, deeply aware of the joy and fulfillment our unconventional love brought us. This awareness of our happiness became a cornerstone of our relationship, a daily celebration of the beautiful, imaginative world we had created together.